Hello Aquarius, welcome back to my channel, The Vibes Inside. I am Mariana and I'm back here to do a reading for you, Aquarius. I feel like the message that comes in, this is really a phenomenon. I feel like it actually goes right hand in hand with the Capricorn reading, if you have seen that one, because it talks very much about Capricorn always deals with a sense of pressure that can actually knock you down, bend you, bow you, like force you to bow to circumstances. But I also talked about that well, I follow an astrologer online. He's called Adam Allenbash, and he recently sent out a new message, or a new video called he called it that Saturn is dying, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and that's why it was in that reading. But the point is that Saturn is this entire symbol of the big oppressor, you could say, or he's called teacher. Saturn is called the teacher, right? Saturn is called the teacher. In regards to our human form, I believe that one of the ways where we are taught something from Saturn has to do with that human form. It has to do with a constant threat of dying, or sickness, or pain in the body, not having enough money to sustain ourselves, and so on. But it all comes down to the fact that we are living in a human life and we are mortal. Like every single choice we make every single day is somehow, at some point in our mind, subconsciously or consciously, made from the fact that we are mortal beings, we have a lifespan, and we age, and we will eventually die. We could get sick or injured, so we will be in pain, right? We are so embedded in that kind of understanding. It's all our history. It's everything we know. Like the thought of thinking that we are not human, that we are not mortal. Maybe we're not even humans in the sense of how we understand humans. In the sense that we are born, we have a lifespan, we die. Because there's proof of this, right? We see it all the time. We see it with ourselves, we see it with plants, we see it with even our history books are filled with this. It talks about history going back in time, people who lived before us, who had their lifespan before us. Because the human mind thinks in that way. We grow up, everything around us is one big narrative that tells this story somehow. I talked about in the Capricorn reading, it's like Capricorn was given a way out of this. A way out of a very sealed version of something. A very sealed, oppressive version. Or push or pressure that is put upon them. It's like Capricorn was given a way out. What is the way out? We also know that, if you are human, there is only one place for us. We can only live here on earth. Like the conditions for our life is best here, along with other animals and plants, vegetation. But this environment is where we were born. This is where we, if you could say, the conditions on earth keep up being suitable for us, that we don't destroy it, then it is the right place for us. There is suggestion that maybe we could have civilization on other planets, but again, the gravitation is different, or the gravity is different, the air is different. There is maybe either too hot or too cold for us in our current form, right? It all depends on our current form. It's because we have this form. And whether we want to like it or not, it's like we are preconditioned. Everything in our DNA, everything in our body responds. The way our mind is developed, the way we exist is a product of what was before, the knowledge of what was before. So if our bloodline, the entire, well, it's everything. It's this entire dual function between our earth and sun. It's like, again, the sun comes in with a certain amount of warmth, and it allows for a certain kind of life to exist here on earth. But it's like it's a duality thing, that it tells it tells a story. It keeps repeating. It's a ping pong that keeps repeating the same story. Scientists have predicted that our sun is going to die at some point, that the sun has a lifespan. Where if scientists haven't said that, people on earth would live in some kind of knowledge that it is eternal, that it's staying there forever. Now we are given almost a death sentence of like the entire earth existence here. Maybe it's in billions of years, that the sun is slowly and surely dimming down, and then eventually it probably implodes or something. And then there is no light here unless another one shows up. And then we don't know exactly what kind of sun that would be, and whether it would suit us, our current state of being. Because our current state of being and how the brain operates, how it understands life, it's like we have put ourselves in the center. We look from all other existence, we look from our perspective. Like we are the true source of something. So we look from that perspective, and then we are examining the world around us. The earth we live in, we are even now examining the cosmic round, other planets and so on. We compare ourselves with what is there and whether it's helping us in our existence, our species existence. Then we have learned to build this ego thing. We have learned to build this ego thing. And it tells us a story of that we have a name, that we belong to this family, we belong to a tribe or a country or whatever, a nationality. It's all narratives, it's all stories. We are told we are humans. We are told that that some are children and some are adults and some are elderly. Eventually, like children, when they come into the world, they have no awareness of like death. It's something that eventually they are told this. And it's typically around the years of 6 or so that it actually sinks in, that it actually starts to sink in on the child, that it's only supposed to be here for a certain amount of time. And this death thing, we don't exactly know when it's coming, do we? But what if it's not true? What if it's not true? What if we are all immortals? Like, this is the message that has come to me now. What if we are not actually supposed to die? It's just that there's enough proof, right? There's enough proof in this world that tells us that this must be true. But still children don't think like that. We tell them that, and they have experienced maybe a grandfather or grandmother dying and not understanding why they're not coming back. And we tell them, but they have died, so they are gone. We tell them because we were told so, and our parents were told so, and we witnessed it, we looked at it. But what if it's not true? Like, what if this is just, again, a big oppressive voice that is all around the world? That is not true. It's sealed, like it's a sealed understanding. Right? It's a sealed understanding. And because it's so big, we cannot fight it as incarnating souls coming here when we are born. We can't. It becomes so big. So this is actually an extension of the Capricorn reading. Now, in the Capricorn reading, I made an example of a movie on Netflix right now. I feel like it's actually telling this story quite well. It's about a plane crash. And some very young, normally they are very joyous and enthusiastic young people. They fall down in the icy mountains. And they survive there for, I believe it was around 40 days. And but the only way that they could survive there is by actually turning to eating their dead co-passengers of that plane. So they cross a line, or they cross what we may call a human line, or a boundary or something to survive. So let's say that we take this to the next level of what I'm talking about here, that what they were facing, it was the winter, a harsh, cold, unnegotiable environment, nothing there, nothing to sustain itself, nothing to nurture it, nothing to feed it, nothing to let it be what it was. Young, enthusiastic, healthy, young, vibrant people. They dumped into this place that only offered very, very little of what they are. A vibrant, strong human being. Many of them were Catholics. They have great faith. But it was like the longer they stayed, they prayed, they did everything that they would normally have done. But eventually, hunger took over. Eventually, they were starved so much. Even their normal joy, their chit-chatter, their laughter, their smiles, the poking, the funny poking at each other, you know, the little ping-pongs, the beautiful normal conversations they had, it shrinked in to primal survival. And I said that it takes one who has been here to understand what this is. Like it takes one who has experienced something that leaves them with a post-traumatic stress to understand how that feels. And living with that choice they made at that time, living with that after. The survivors of this plane crash, they've made this film 50 years after the crash. Part of them still lives there. They are still marked by this. And they know that the surrounding world, they don't get it. Like their loving family, when they got home, they wanted the best treatment for them. They wanted to be themselves again, be their vibrant selves again. But an experience like this, it changes something. And it's difficult to leave it behind. It's like a post-traumatic stress feeling. And nobody gets you. Nobody gets you. Okay, so I'm trying to transfer some of this feeling to what I'm talking about. Now I make it even bigger. Now I talk about that Earth is like this. We are all in it. What if we are in an oppressive state that tells us, you are humans, you are humans, you are mortal, you must fear everything, you know? Things like that. You have to fear. Today can be your last day. If you don't have enough, you will not survive. You are humans. You are mortal. Do you get my point? Like the winter is so... It's like a titanic wall. You can't negotiate with it, right? There's no empathy. There's no... It doesn't care, actually. It doesn't show that it's caring. It stands like a titanic wall. And you can try to punch it, but it's not giving. The winter, the cold, harsh winter for humans are deadly. Not for a fish, not for an ice bear, but for humans it's deadly, right? So we don't want to be there unless we are very well prepared. We have clothes, we have food, we have transportation maybe. Or we have been raised in that environment, like in Greenland, for instance. We know the enemy, right? We have been raised here. We have seen enough. We have heard enough. We have listened to the stories. We know this environment. And for this, I would say we are all humans here, all human souls here. We are all in this together with this voice that keeps telling us what we are. But what if we are not? What if we are immortals? What if it's not true? There is scientific proof that what you think creates your life. So what your thoughts are, what your mind is controlled by, what domineering thoughts you have, this is what you become. It's what you attract, and it determines your life, what you're thinking. But the thinking that we have comes from a variety of, like, childhood home environment, the talk that is there, what we are taught in school, kindergarten, school, and then further into education systems, then into workplaces, and then into marriage or whatever we have alongside of it. But there is this lifespan. We are told this from we are children. It's just interesting that the children that incarnate, the child brain, doesn't think like that. Only when it's hurt. Only when it falls down and hits its knees, or even worse. Then we are reminded we have a human body. But what if this body is not mortal? You see, if you send from every cell in your mind is so, it has bowed, like we bow to it. We trust our parents, right? We trust our parents that what they tell us may somehow be true. Maybe along the way we are not agreeing, and even as adults we maybe don't agree at all. But along the way we have to trust them. Like that's at least, it becomes an innate thing that they are important for our survival. Again, survival. Innately something happens when we are born. It's like we become, something in us knows that I have left my one room experience in my mother's room, in my mother's womb, right? My one room experience here, all inclusive, VIP, flow state here. I'm kind of out of that. There's something in us that somehow knows that something changes here. The minute we arrive here, we are bombarded by the frequency of the earth, the frequency from the sun, the frequency that is ruling this planet. It's a message, it's a sound, it's a narrative that keeps boom, 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 boom. It calls to activate all the things in the human brain, the human mortal brain, that needs to be activated here. Our amygdala, our fear center, everything gets activated the minute we arrive. The minute we arrive, the time starts, right? The time or the game of this life starts. The minute you arrive, you have less minutes than you did just before, until you die. and we don't know when. This uncertainty also makes us comply even more, that we don't know when. We have no idea if we wake up tomorrow. Actually, I would say, you see, like if we think about this as making a thought experiment, like let's say you are the voice that governs, and you have a little animal here. You have put it in an environment. You have put things in there that potentially it can keep itself alive with this. To a certain point it can. But you don't give it like just flooding in. Now you give it only like, enough to sustain itself. And then you keep telling it that it's going to die. You keep telling it even that if this and this and this is scarce, the probability of dying is more. So when this little thing experiences, oh, there is no water, because I keep hearing this message, it programs the little animal here. It keeps hearing this message, you need water. There's no water. Oh, what am I going to do? Like, I live in this world too. My programming is, I have been told I am a human. I have a limited lifespan. That's what I've been told. Like you, everyone else here. That is the vibration here. But what if it's not true? Or at least what is if it's only part of the truth? Like what if it's like telling the same bedtime story to a child every day and every night. Every day and every night they hear the same bedtime story. They are never given another information. They only hear they hear the same story over and over again. And because we hear the same story, we live it, we attract it, we build it, we fall down, we die, because and therefore we create the proof for the next generation to see that what we have told them is actually true. Like when we die, we become the proof of what we've told them. Or if we have warned them about certain things that they could get injured or something. When we get old or we get sick or something, because of course we have to age also. We are told that. Like we are told that we must age. It is like the frequency here tells a story that we must do this. We must follow along, comply to this. Like that is it's sealed. Like there is only this version of existence here. It can't not be that. But what if that's not true? What if that is just the biggest story there is? A somewhat sealed story. There were many like references to something very sealed also in the Capricorn reading. Please have a look at it if you feel like it. And there was a big reference to water also. So if I can send you a story that touches your feelings and your fear center and make you uncertain, make you doubt, I can keep you in that position. I even talked about in the Capricorn reading something about that. Let's say, as I said with the child, if you give the child the same bedtime story or the same story every single day, they never get to hear something new. That is the only reference point from which it can grow and understand the world. There is no other way. Well, of course, it can go out there on its own and it will experience something. But you know what has been said already? There has been, again, experiments or science projects about this idea that when a child is born, from the moment it's born and up till around 6-7 years, it's like their mind is like this open sponge that just draws all information in with no filter. There's no filter to this. And you see, and a very open, it like the voice, the dominating voice here that keeps emanating, and the tone and the frequency that is here, it tells the same story. Everybody hears it. There can be varieties, but you know, and we are all differently impacted by this. But I guess we all have stories about death, of course. We all have stories about like the lifespan of childhood, teenager, adult, elderly life, and then death. Like that is the only way. There is no other way. But like the incoming message I had this morning when I woke up was something like this. What if it's not true? Like I'm just putting it out there. It's like, and especially for you, Aquarius, and it comes up for you also. It didn't come up yesterday. It comes up for you today, right? And we have this incoming age of Aquarius that is, we know it's future, like we know Aquarius is futuristic. We know it is very wise and very clever. We know it correlates with the cosmic realm. We know that it brings something here that has not been here before. Usually it has been in the matters of science. It could be technological, like the internet. But it brings something here that has not been here before. Usually. Aquarius is known to be a bit of a rebel in the sense that it's not necessarily accepting the current truth of reality. Or it's not currently accepting, maybe you would say, the pressure of society, what is here. Or even as I'm saying now, I'm sitting here with this question mark in my head, but what if this is not true? Like what if because this story, this narrative that I talk about is all over, like this is it is a sealed, accepted dogma. It's a sealed, accepted, and we would say as humans, we would even say scientifically proved, because we have proof of this. Like this is a sealed deal. And everyone interacting in this is playing with this, like it's in a ping pong with this understanding. But what if it's not true? I've said before that Aquarius can be late bloomers, but what if it's reversed? Like, what if Aquarius is actually one of the only zodiac signs that I said that also that Aquarius is ungrounded? What if Aquarius, what if you, Aquarius, is the only zodiac sign that never truly wants to ground in this? Like, what if you hold on to your child understanding longer before you bow? I said that they are late bloomers, but actually it could be the other way around. Eventually they too bow to the pressure of this. I don't know about this. It's just an incoming message that I have. And I just sat there and kind of, what? Because if that is true, it changes everything. It means that I don't have to age. My body must not die within, let's say, 100 years or less. I don't have a lifespan of 100 minus years. What if there is no urgency also? This is another thing with, because usually there is an urgency. Like child state, well, we know that it has a certain amount of years. Then eventually they become teenagers, they can do more, of course, much more on their own. They become adults. And the adult state is the preferred state. And the workable adult age is that is the prime of human existence. So there is a time up to, and there is a downfall from it. So when we become old, elderly, because we don't, what's that called? We don't sustain the current. Like if only children and elderly were on the planet, we couldn't sustain the world we know. We need the workforce age, right? Which is supposed to be the glory of our species. So from a childhood state, we should get to teenage and young adult state within a certain amount of time. But you see, if you are immortal, there is no rush. Like, let's say that this sealed version that we have in our world was changed. And we get a new one. We get one that says, we are all immortals here. It would change something, wouldn't it? There's no rush. I don't need to be if I'm here for a long period, again, you can just change it back then, right? You could, again, do you get it? Like but it's like we have never been informed. We have only been given the information that you are mortals, you have a limited lifespan, and you actually, within this lifespan, you have to take action, become this group workforce, this glorified version, and then eventually we disappear again. And that is kind of the life there is. Actually, I believe that Aquarius is trying to avoid becoming part of this group or this narrative for as long as they can. Eventually they may bow to it too, because it is, as I say, it's a sealed deal. There is no way out. And eventually I believe that Aquarius sees that as well. They understand there is no way out. Or they eventually get to the idea that there's no way out. Not as long as I believe that I'm mortal. And I can't hear anything else. The only thing I hear, and I constantly see proof of it. The news talks about all these casualties in war and so on. We are bombarded with this story. It's a never-ending oppressive story. Eventually, even Aquarius bows to this. I talked about late bloomers, but actually they could be late bowers. Bloom would suggest that they become successful, or they take action in the society they are in. They get an education, they get a job, they are very clever people. But it means, so late bloomers could suggest that, yeah, with the understanding that we all learn, yeah, then maybe Aquarius are late bloomers, in the sense that they figure out how to somehow get by in this world. But actually what they are doing, they're leaving their cosmic state, their ungroundedness, and become more grounded. They accept the fact. Other people have bowed to this long before. I believe Aquarius stays ungrounded longer, because as soon as you get your feet on ground, you can't escape this religion, this story. If you fly high up, there's a distance to what everyone goes and talks about down here. What everyone is occupied about, what everybody gossips about. But when you get grounded, when you land, because I feel like eventually even Aquarius is forced down by this to land, then you have actually bowed. You have accepted the fact that you are a human being, and that you have a limited lifespan, or even that you have linear time. But what if it's not true? Like, what if this is not even a thing? If we believe in the New Age community and this age of Aquarius is here, what is it going to bring? I said that Saturn is dying, so maybe this story here that has been this sealed deal, this sealed contract, and everybody playing in it will feel the pressure of this. Like, it's like we have never been given a choice, have we? Whether we are humans or not. We get told what we are. But what if you figure out you are something else? Not who you are. I'm not talking about your name, but what you are. What if you are not a human? Everybody who may have feel alienated here, who feels like they don't belong, who feels like they are, what if it's a fraud? And for some reason we have heard this story. We have all heard this story. Like, I believe even animals tell this story. Like when their young ones grow up, their children, the mother and father, if both are around, they tell this story to their children. The story is part of the vegetation here as well. It's like a frequency state. It's like, let's say, our solar system has a certain frequency level and even the idea, understanding of time and pace. But what if I'm immortal and I land here, it wouldn't make sense to me. Like, what is this rush about? They tell me that I'm dying. What are you talking about? And they are so consumed, like we are consumed by this. It's in every cell of our body. We believe in it. We take action from that place. Some more consciously than others. But we scan, every day we scan our environment for what's going on. It's in our DNA, it's a bloodline thing. It's an animalistic instinct thing. I've said before that I believe the human state, we believe we are a superior race here, but we have actually only left the animal state. Some people even still live there, in the animal state primarily. People with post-traumatic stress, I feel like they are more in touch with the animalistic side than human life. They also find it difficult to come back into society, civilization and society. It's difficult for them to be there. We have only tipped over. There's so much more that we don't know because we have only been informed. We have only been given one message. It's the only thing, and we keep reinforcing it with each other. Like the story, every time we talk, oh, my father is sick, oh, I'm so sorry, and what's wrong, and well, but it's, and even if you talk about a cancer diagnosis, oh my God, and it's the fourth state. The fourth state cancer is almost like a death sentence, right? In our awareness, in our brain. But what if that's not true? But it's like we are commanding our brain to think certain things when it's like it's consumed by it. Every time you hear the news, every time you open the radio, every time you just think about your everyday life, the things you do. You go to work for what? To earn the money, because you need the money to sustain yourself. But what if that's not true? What if you are sustained by light? What if you are sustained by light? Like, I don't know exactly, right? I also believe that maybe this is an evolutionary state. Like maybe it's something that it requires a total rewiring of the brain. And from that point, the body has to accept it. But it starts with the brain. I've said before that sometimes we can easily change our mind about something. That this can be done in seconds. But it doesn't mean that the body falls along. The body follows along. And it probably will be confused or have reactions. That if you change your mind, that let's say you are in a relationship with someone and you feel very safe there, then your body probably relaxes, because this is the signal you send to the body. If you figure something out that immediately changes your mind, that now suddenly you're not safe there, but you're still with them. Now what happens? Like the state in your body changes. Because you are now doubting this. It brings forth this survival thing in you. It brings forth the idea of safety or not safety. So suddenly a situation that felt really good is now suddenly a troubled state, and your body starts to react to it. That's how powerful the mind is, right? What you think is what you are going to create. But of course we can only create to the point of what we know or what we allow ourselves to know or think. What if mortality is a hoax? Let's say that like some of the world leaders here on earth, what if they know this? What if they believe that they are, let's say, immortals, but they let the rest of the world believe they are mortals? Believing we are immortals would seem like a very grandiose, almost narcissistic way of thinking, wouldn't it? Well, I don't know. It's just, again, if there are certain abilities that link to the mortal human life, there are certain things that go if you are a mortal human. And there are things that are supernatural, that only goes with something that is not human and not mortal. I said something, was it in the Sagittarius maybe, something about opening other areas of our brain, allowing us to be able to do more, because then we know more. We have other tools available, other ways of understanding the world. But you see, those doors are closed as long as we believe we are mortal humans. Because if you are mortal human, only certain things can apply. If you believed you were immortal, now it changes the game, doesn't it? Because if you're immortal, first of all, you could live like a very long time. And then again, you could choose to become mortal. You can just change your mind. If you don't want to live here anymore, then you can die. But we have never been given that choice, have we? I'm just, it came in as a message. I'm just experimenting with this thought pattern, right? That what if this is possible? What if this is an option? If we talk about the idea that like the mortal body is, or the human, mortal body has to die at some point. That's the story. That's the lifespan. But what about the soul? Like the soul is understood as this infinite being or infinite consciousness state. And it can incarnate again and again and again and again. It can have multiple lifespans. But what if it doesn't need to? Because every time you come into you incarnate in a child. The child brain and entire exterior, how it's designed, meets this message, this sealed message, right? It builds an ego to protect itself. The ego becomes a dominant voice. And what's underneath it gets forgotten, or we put it aside because that message doesn't align with what we are experiencing and what we are hearing and what we are bombarded with. We are bombarded with the fact that we are mortal humans. We have to eat and sleep and all this stuff to sustain ourselves. So whatever was beneath it, whatever you were born in with, like a soul voice, it can't align. Like they don't go together. So one has to go. Like one has to leave the scene. Usually the ego takes over. The ego is very, very tough interior on humans. It has to be. Because, and this is what I feel like goes on with children when they're around 6 years old. It's this idea that they are comprehending the fact that they are dying. Like this is, that they are dying. Like this is like a shock. It's not, because they may still be in touch with their soul voice. So they are confused now, right? They get confused. But all they see around them reinforces only one story, not the other. There is only one voice, one narrative. What if you could choose whether you want to have one narrative or the other? What if the split that comes in now here between the third dimension and the fifth dimension is exactly this? That you allow yourself to think more. Thinking that we are immortals is an unbelievable, grandiose thought. Because it's a game changer. It changes everything. I don't have to age. I don't have to become older. and I don't have to die. And as a soul, it means you don't have to incarnate again and fight a new ego. It means that you can keep expanding your mind. You can keep opening doors. Do you see my point of it's like when you're only given little information, you can only act from that space. When you get more information, it's again as how we see it when a child grows. In the beginning, it can do very little. It learns something. It's given more information or stimuli. Eventually it knows more. Eventually it knows more. Now it becomes a teenager. It can even more. As an adult, well, we can do much more things. Because you are given certain stimuli. Maybe we are ready as a human species to be given even further choices. We have been in a state where we have been exploring this idea of being human and mortal. Third dimension. What if there is a door opening now that says, but you're not only humans and mortal. There's another door. You can walk this way. It's like giving a child a new book. A book that hasn't been here before. It's a game changer, because if your brain starts aligning with the fact that you are an immortal can grow wings, they can levitate, they can maybe dissolve and have a new body, they can change into a dragon, they can do anything. An immortal, we know that, right? Superman has certain powers, Batman, Spider-Man, all these like superior beings, but still in some kind of form. Who have they're like hybrids. They may have a mortal life, but then they also have this other hybrid side to them. What if we are experiencing in this age of Aquarius that we are hybrids, that we are not only human mortals, that there's another doorway that we can explore, that the fifth dimension is that. And what if there are even further states, that the idea of being mortal and immortal are just like two? What if there are even more states of existence? For instance, what if there is a non-form existence? And when you are in non-form, how does that expand? Like, how many doors do we have here then? And how can you travel and move and intertwine and blend and shift color or whatever? I just thought that it was an interesting thought experiment. That if there is another door, because that door, you see, if that door allows us to be immortal, it doesn't mean that I have to stay on Earth, does it? That I need oxygen to survive. Like an immortal should be able to travel all kinds of realms without oxygen tanks or anything, because it's immortal. So we could live anywhere we want. We could live on any kind of planet. it's like it exceeds our human understanding, doesn't it? It's not what we know, it's not what we see, it's not like our mortality is confirmed every single day. But everyone who works with, let's say, a hypnotherapist, for instance, everyone that works with the mind and some of these states the mind can be in, so let's say alpha waves, beta waves, and theta waves. When you are communicating with the theta waves of the brain, which is a very relaxed state, this is where you can actually reprogram your mind to think totally differently. It's like, I say it as it's like bypassing the conscious mind. What the conscious mind and awaken, like the mind that we use when we are awake, in awake state during the day. The conscious mind, we have access to around 5 to 10% normally. But let's say you could have a conscious access to 50% of your brain. What doors would open there? What would we be able to do? If one of the if one of the keys to open your mind is believing that you are more than, I've actually talked about this also in other readings, that there's more. You are more than the frame holds. What was that? More than the frame holds. Also this round of readings, was it Cancer, Gemini? I can't remember, but more than the frame holds. Because the frame, again, the frame is like this sealed narrative. But what if you are more than what the sealed narrative, or what if you allow for more than the sealed narrative tells you? What if there's more outside that we are able to call in, manifest on earth? Then the story would change. It's no longer that it's no longer that sealed, set in stone, and unbendable. Like it's like, or as I said with the icy winter, it's like it's non-negotiable. You can negotiate with an iceberg. Like it doesn't. You can learn its characteristics. You can climb it maybe, but that's because you have learned what it tells you. It's not because it's budging. It's still the same. You have adapted. And that's what we do. We as humans, we come in, we adapt to the environment, to the story. Because it's like it's set in stone. It's like an iceberg. It doesn't move. It doesn't change. It's a very solid story. Almost unbreakable story. That's what I feel like with Saturn. It has such a pressure on people that they bow to, like eventually they bow to it. They bow to these circumstances because it's non-negotiable, unflexible. And because it's either you can keep fighting, knocking on it, but it's not budging, right? You will exhaust yourself, you will die. Or you can say, okay, in order for me to survive here, I have certain ideas, I have certain convictions, but I see that they are not working here. I have certain things about me that I don't want to give up, but I see that it's not working. I understand that I cannot sustain myself here unless I adapt. And if I adapt, what am I going to do? What am I seeing myself doing because I adapt or bow to this? That is Capricorn, Saturn. And every day, and that is one of the things that happens when people wake up, have a spiritual awakening, it is that they are seeing what they are doing every single day that is not in alignment with their core, that is not in alignment with who they are. They are trapped, they feel enslaved, they have to, right? But what if that is not true? What if it's just a story? A very big one though. A very dominant one. But what if it's just a story? What if it's not true that what we have been told? What if we are much more than that? What if that is just an evolutionary state like the child? What if we are totally infinite beings? We can travel everywhere. We can visit everything. What if we don't need oxygen tanks? What if it's just a story in our head? And every DNA, every cell in our body has aligned to that story. What if we, over the next age, in the Aquarius age here, adapting to the fact that no, our DNA can change into a state of not limitation, but the exact opposite. That we are not limited to this state of existence. We are expansive. We can go wherever we want. We don't need a rocket to go to Mars. Well, maybe now we do, because that's how we think, right? But eventually, no. We can just astral travel there. We don't even have a body necessarily. What if the state we are in is just like, as I said, we have barely left the animal state. We are perhaps not even like toddlers. What if the narrative, that like this dominating story, and we keep reinforcing it? Like we keep talking, oh yeah, my aunt just died and it's terrible. She had this, like she was in this car crash, you know. We reinforce the story all the time. And the aunt that was in the plane crash, her way of thinking is exactly the same. Fearful perhaps. Attracting a car accident to her. What we think, that we create the life we think. So if we think that we have a life that is, we are threatened in some way because we don't have much money, it's because we are aligned with the fact that we need food, that we are not immortals. The whole idea of the climate threat. I know that it sounds really, because we would say, yeah, but scientists, they can see this, like they can see that we are threatened. They can see that the climate has to change if we want to survive here. Yeah, survive in the state we know. survive in the only state that is allowed here. Okay, let's have a look at the cards. This was like way too much. Okay, full spectrum, yeah. Well, full spectrum means something like fully incarnated, with everything you know, so full soul incarnation, full soul awareness or consciousness awareness. It talks about coming full circle in the sense that maybe there's something you've tried to manifest or something you are not, well, you know, you're not accepting. It's just, as I said right now, like this idea that, well, I was given this information and it's kind of startled me a little bit because it questions everything, right? And that is usually what, you know, revealing does. Like if you have an epiphany about something or you are suddenly becoming aware of something, it can shock you. It can startle you. It can, you know, it shakes you. Full spectrum is like I want to say it probably is also something about that all your chakras are aligning more and more with each other, speaking with each other. Like they are no longer blocked in the sense they may have been. It's like there is full communication between also the Earth Star Chakra and the Soul Star Chakra and even further chakras. So it's like you stand and you walk with a certain awareness of, it's an expansion. Full spectrum is like expansion of you. Let's just get the card here. It says, creating heaven on earth by honoring the perfection of nature's cycles, going beyond the judgment of good and bad, the merging of duality, raw nature, earth wisdom, connecting to ancestors, shadows as the fertile soil for exponential growth. The way forward is in the whispering of the land and honoring the full spectrum of life. What does heaven on earth look like to you? Do you imagine lush green nature, ancient forests, pristine beaches, crystalline water systems, and all the planet's residents in full health, living in harmony with each other? And yet nature, in its purest, rawest form, is a balance of life and death, growth and decomposition, the eaters and the eaten. In one way or another, this is a natural flux of life. Well, that's at least what we know, right? With the message that I come in with here, I'm questioning this. I'm questioning whether, and are you actually with your mind able to create something else or allow for something else? I don't know, right? I don't even know if the human evolutionary state that we are ready, you know, for that. I may see it as something to come, I guess. I don't know if I am ready for that, because it means that we have to transcend our fears, all fears. Like we cannot live in fear of dying and then be immortal at the same time. So if you start thinking to yourself, I am an immortal being, then I guess your body is going to tell you this is a problem, right? Because everything I know is something else. I'm not saying it's not possible to maybe transcend something. But it's just, what does that create then? Like, it is, I'm just allowing for a thought experiment to think that, because then there would be things that I could do or I'm not limited by. And again, as I said, maybe it opens something in your brain. It allows you to open a door to a specific place in your brain that now activates something else. But as long as we believe we are mortal, that door is closed. Because we close it, like our brain, the way we think, we close it. It's not possible, right? Again, then our brain, our ego, becomes like this giant iceberg. Our ego can be that. Our ego can be this giant iceberg, non-negotiable. Unless we are deciding that I'm not settling, right? I'm actually going to debate this iceberg of an ego that I have that tells me that I'm mortal, for instance. An awakening, it's like, I feel like an awakening is the soul. The soul starts speaking. Because what you are doing, you are so far away from whatever soul inspiration you may have. So it's almost like the soul is knocking on the other side of the iceberg. It's like you may hear the knock, right? But you don't know what it is. And then there is on both sides this dismantling of this ego, like dismantling of the iceberg. So that finally the voice of the soul gets through and it tells you something. In my case, it has just told me this. Like 7 years ago, where I believe I had this awakening, I believed, like every cell of my body, I believed I was a human woman, an ordinary human woman, just an everyday person, living my human life, getting my education, having these jobs. I felt not right. I've always felt a bit like I don't belong here. But I couldn't figure out why. I had no idea why. So I kind of just followed along this song that I was told to follow along, this tune, right? I saw myself feeling miserable where I was, but I had no way out. I didn't see that there could be any other kind of way. And I never felt purpose here, because the purpose is about very trivial, like earthy stuff. Again, becoming part of this workforce to sustain the story and sustain everything. And there's maybe nothing bad in that, because again, the story is very strong and everybody in here is in it together. Like they're all kind of trapped in this together, or they join this together. We are all in this together, that kind of thing. And I saw no way out. I saw no way out. And I have been going through a lot of these 7 years. It has been such a messy roller coaster. And now I get this message. That it's because that it's so limited. I have so much going on that talks about yin and yang. light and dark, opposites. And have a look at this. The opposite of being a mortal human is what? Something immortal. So why not have that conversation on my channel as well? What if, as I said, we are not just human, mortal humans, that there's more. But it's more than the frame can hold. It would be thinking outside an existing box. Looking to fix something, but outside the box thinking. But you know, outside of the box thinking, in some circles, this is not very popular. If I'm immortal, for instance, there are certain illnesses that I don't have to worry about. I could be injured perhaps, but not die. As long as I have a human body at least. Having form is what I see it actually as it's a problem for evolution, like human or consciousness evolution, because the body needs sustenance. It needs to be maintained. So it, like, preferably it must never be injured. It must be in good health all the time, vibrant all the time. So it must be given the sustenance it needs, whatever that is. We know it as food, drink, sleep, things like that. But what if it was light? What if it's love? What if it's not oxygen? Like, what if it's something else? Whatever it is, it needs it to maintain itself. And preferably, we must not be injured, and we must not get a terminal illness, because then we die, right? Or there is a possibility of dying. We get children because we need to let the species survive. I know that people say we get children because we love them, but deep down under this there is a primal drive that tells us we have to get children, because when we die we need someone to take over. But again, what if we don't die? We wouldn't need to get children. I think this is very much a discussion of what kind of life you want to settle with. Like a third dimensional life with this very sealed version of understanding. Or a different kind of life, because then it's about consciousness. It's about evolution and consciousness. It has nothing to do with egoic, like trivial egoic goals. It has to do with the evolution of Earth. It has to do with the evolution of the humankind. It is a goal that is different than what we have on Earth. But again, well, it depends on what kind of personality you have. And I'm not saying this is easy, because we still have form. We're still here. We are very much here. So we are in this in-between thing, right? Perhaps. I think immortality can be this idea that you are more than what you knew. So adapting to it's like every time you get a new subject in school, you don't know anything about it. And maybe you like it or you don't like it. but it's like you're given this new book. Here you are, read this and get clever, right? So you read this new book, and then you may attempt to try it out. You may try it out. See what happens. And I think it's going to create like a problem in the brain, right? It's going to be like a confusion, because it's like I cannot be mortal and immortal at the same time. It's like they don't like, how can I be both, or be partly one thing and then again, and how can I be partly maybe participating in something like a spiritual thing, and then partly be a part of this mortal life? Like, it's very confusing. With a spiritual awakening, I feel like it takes you through that dilemma, but it actually goes further. It's like the more you pursue these new ways of thinking, the more difficult it becomes to be part of the other, more mortal understanding. Like many of the directives, many of the understandings within that world, this very sealed version, like the more spiritually open you become, the more it doesn't align. But again, it's like you walk away from something, right? The more distance you have to this, the more this looks obsolete in some way, old. And I think some people will stay with what was, and some will go towards this other way of thinking, where there is a sense of allowing to think differently, be differently, feel differently, act differently. And I think Aquarius can definitely be feel this. Pluto is in Aquarius right now. It will be until September. A quick return back into Capricorn as a reminder, I think, of what that was. And then back into Aquarius for 18 years. So I expect that something is going to change in our minds here. Usually people have Aquarius somewhere in their chart. You can have it as a sun sign and even other placements, but with me it's my Mars. My Mars is Aquarius. But you see, people have it somewhere, and it's going to challenge them, I think, in the way they think and what your brain allows you to think. Like, how further along or outside of the frame can you go? What I'm saying now is, well, I guess that there could be people out there who are just, what are you talking about? Like, it's so, so weird or so strange. And I get that. I understand that. As I said 7 years ago, I worked in a school. I was a pedagogue or kindergarten teacher, whatever you want to call it, but I'm not kindergarten, school children. I was so much part of the matrix and how school works and the ruling and settings of school and expectations of school. And I was there to, help the children. It was a hard thing for me. I wanted to I guess it felt a little bit like protect them. Like I wanted to protect them from this world or something. So I don't know if I somehow knew at that point It wasn't conscious, I want to say, at all. And now I sit and talk about something like this, which is so far away from the life I was living at that point. Sometimes I even ask myself, it's like there's a door that was opened in my mind, that hasn't been opened before. And suddenly there has been this streaming incoming of information. And I've been trying to share some of this here, and well, it made changes in my life. It definitely has challenged my body, still does challenge my body. And now I have this incoming of immortality. It's just, well, I don't know how to handle that exactly. But like any other information I've had, it's like it has to come in, and it's like it pokes some of the other puzzle pieces in my head. It challenges my head or my brain, my brain thinking. And I know I need a period of time where this has to settle in somehow, to figure out, okay, then what? Now what? And I'm just sharing with you, right? I'm just sharing, what if we have only, like, it's a bit like propaganda, right? You only get one message. And what if we are all somehow, like, one superior message controls everything? Then we have all these others going on. But one superior message controls the entire earth, like a propaganda. And you have never been given another choice. There is no way. It's unnegotiable. But what if there is? This is a general, well, it's something that came to me this morning, right? But of course it will not be for everyone. I guess that some will not resonate with this, and you click off the channel, of course. But what if some of you do? Like, if you just think about it for a moment, it changes many things. Like the medical industry, for instance. If this became a thing, that people started to think like this, they stopped aging. They wouldn't get sick. What would it do to the current? Like, it's going to challenge the current. The mortality current, right? That we all somehow, for now at least, we live in. And I must say, I don't even think that our parents and grandparents, they had no choice. We had no choice even. Like, this is so big of a voice that we can't, and there's so much proof of it. There's so much proof, so much story, so many history books, so many graveyards, so much war, so much suffering, so much lack, so much all this stuff. There's so much proof that how am I, as a little child in this world, supposed to fight against that? That is not possible, and we bow to it. We're dependent on our parents, and they will reinforce this story because we all believe in it. It's proven. Yes, I believe it's a given in a certain frequency. It's a given. There is no other choice in the third dimension. Even civilizations who have been even worse off than we are, with destroyed planets, it's a given that it's unnegotiable. But in a different frequency, it could be different. A different frequency is going to be different than it was. How is it going to be different? We may not know that exactly. All we know and our history way back is third dimensional. There's this talk that there has been different civilizations of higher frequency. That is maybe true. But for a long, long period of time now, and all our inherited DNA knows, is lack, suffering, pain, death, and so on. This new thing that is supposed to come in, it's going to challenge the current state of thinking. It has to. Otherwise, there is no change. So what if this is one of them? Ace of Air. Yeah, Ace of Air is like an epiphany or new message, an incoming, a light bulb moment. A new way of thinking, a new ideology maybe. I just talked about this idea of immortality. I don't know what this is in your life. It could be something totally different. Again, this can be like a door opening. Ace is a new beginning, a new time. Ace of Air, Ace of Aquarius. Ace of Aquarius and Age of Aquarius, like a message that comes with this Age of Aquarius. And well, Pluto is scorpionic energy. It talks about transformation, death and rebirth. And Pluto is in Aquarius right now, so I guess that Aquarius could be influenced by, like different thinking, that it's like something that comes in that is challenging the current. It challenges your current thinking, your current state of being. I think it's going to challenge your brain to open new doors. That's actually what I feel like. Allow yourself to open new doors. To think outside of the current. But again, it's challenging because it could be very fearful, frightening to do that. We know what we have, right? We don't know what is going to come. What if I walk away from what I have? What if I walk away from what I have? I don't know what's going to come. How can I trust that? Because all I know is this sealed story. So I get Saint Bridget, Our Lady of Exalted Light. I give endlessly because the light is without end. My soul is all I need. Again, I give endlessly because the light is without end. You see, this is something that never stops. I give to the world. I give to the world because I know. I give endlessly because I know that my life force, my energy level never stops. It's an infinite life source. But you see, it takes for us to, my soul is all I need. My soul is all I need. The ego that corresponds and ping-pongs with the current narrative has a limited lifespan. The ego. Because it believes that you are a mortal human. Your soul, though, your soul is supposed to be infinite. It doesn't die. If you operate from your soul perspective, there is no dying. There is no, low batteries. There is no, I even want to say aging. There is nothing like that. But it's because we can't. It is so embedded in us. Every spiritual teacher you can come across would say that if you change your mind, you get a new perspective, you do differently, you can attract different things into your life. Law of attraction, law of mirroring, law of creation, all these laws that some of these teachers talk about. It's all about your brain. Like your brain is this dominating voice over your body. We know that, right? If your brain dead, the body doesn't work. You can't do anything with the body. The body doesn't react. The body is an avatar, you could say, that follows the teachings and the story, the narrative, the voice that comes from your brain. So what you think in your brain is either limiting or expanding what your body can do or is, what you are. I just have the feeling that the full spectra is like, I get almost like a foreseeing, that this could be what we will be invited into, that we can be invited into a very different understanding of life here. It's a different timeline. There are different frequencies here that govern this place, or this. It's governed by something else, if you allow it. And it kind of tells us, it's like we can create heaven on earth. What is that exactly? People want abundance, they want to be rich, they want to, but again, what is that exactly? What if heaven on earth is well, I guess it depends on whether you talk to your ego or whether you talk to your soul. Like what conversation you have. If you want to create heaven on earth for you, and you talk to your ego, it could be about, endless money or endless riches, always sunshine, peace perhaps, or endless fun, or it would be something that just makes your current human life here more interesting or fun or likable. It would be something like taking all the bad stuff out of your life. The bad stuff is something that threatens you, or as we see it, the human body is threatened. So the bad stuff is the icy winters, right? Unless you like ski sports, but the bad stuff is illness and sickness, because it threatens the human body existence, our mortality. The things we decide that are right or wrong or good or bad in this life is about our mortality and survival. When we say something is bad, it's because it either could ruin us financially, it can affect us emotionally, we get weaker, we get sick, we are threatened in some way. And therefore we decide it's bad. But it may not be bad for a fish, because they're cold-blooded. They don't care about the warmth. An ice bear. Like if you put an ice bear in a too warm place, they would suffer, right? It's all about environment that fits the species. So when we decide something is bad and we want to eliminate it, it doesn't mean that it's bad for the entire globe. It's just bad for us, our species, in the mortality form. And for some reason we have decided that because we have the biggest brain, or at least an intelligent brain, that our rules apply here. We build, we destroy according to our species survival. More than other species survival. So even if certain races are extinct, we don't care about that. Or, well, we say we do, but we're not really doing anything. Not really. Because when it all comes down to it, we want us to survive more than something else. Tigers, whatever. Whatever threatened species out there, we want our species to survive more. I know, like, to the outside we say that, oh, we have to preserve, and we have to, I think we do, I think that heaven on earth is not just humans, right? We like the butterflies, we like the deers in the forest, we like that there are other things here, as long as it's just not threatening us. We like the honey that the bee makes, right? We like that. We like the colors of the vegetation and the flowers and so on. We like that. It's not threatening us necessarily. But again, we will always come from a point of survival. Every living species here on earth comes from a point of primal survival here. Because it's the voice that dictates everything. Life and death. It's everywhere. But if I was immortal and I have endless supply here, well, I wouldn't care that Other species, they could get the water then. They could get the corn. They could get the meat. Because I don't need it, right? If I have like, I wouldn't have to eat that much. I wouldn't have to. Do you see my point? It's like if the soul is fueled from somewhere else, if the soul is immortal, infinite, it must be fueled from somewhere. From somewhere. Or fueled by something that is not necessarily water, fruit, bread, meat, you know. That's the human part. Well, in this world we see them as kind of intertwined, that this is not existing unless the body is existing. But one thing that is for sure is that if you look at a dead body, it's like something is missing. Well, they are not alive, yes. But even if they look like they just lay there and sleep, something is missing. Like we see the body, yes, but it's like there's something missing there. What is that exactly? We would say it would be the soul, right? The soul is missing. The soul has left. So every time you interact with another person, you don't really interact with their avatar, like the body. You act with what is inside it. We say that the eyes is the window to the soul. So it means that you look at a person and they have a certain like body, they have a certain face. But what you are actually looking for is a soul inside this avatar. That's the one you interact with. Your soul as well. Sometimes the soul is just buried underneath a very, very big and very non-negotiable ego. If the soul can leave, like it can fly away, it may suggest that it has no form. Is it truly the soul that fuels the brain? And if so, where does the soul has its power from? It must have some kind of energy solution. Well, I'm just speculating, that's just me. Let's have a look at this Saint Bridget here. If I can find her here. Let's have a look. Where are you? There she is. Okay. So this is this one, right? Saint Bridget represents the elevated state of knowing. Elevated state of knowing that we have everything we could ever need. This talks about supply again, infinite supply. Bridget was born in Ireland in 453, the daughter of an enslaved Pict woman called Brocha. Bridget's name came from the Celtic Briganti, meaning high or exalted. It is said that the moment the king witnessed Bridget's generosity, he knew that she was holy, and he set her free. Bridget shares the name of the Celtic goddess Bridget and took on many of the same attributes. Saint Bridget's feast day is on Imbolc, the first day of February, which is also the day that the goddess Bridget is honored. Around 480, Saint Bridget founded a monastery at Kildare on the site of a shrine to the goddess Bridget. There were priestesses who tended to the goddess's eternal flame and received spiritual instruction in honoring the goddess. Saint Bridget is credited with organizing a communal or consecrated form of religious life for women on that same sacred ground. Traditions say that Saint Bridget died in Imbolc in 525. She had a female companion named Dar Lochdag, who became her successor as the abbess of Kildare. Dar Lochdag also died in Imbolc a year later, which Saint Bridget has predicted. The abbey at Kildare that Saint Bridget founded became a center of religion and learning and developed into a cathedral city. It remains famous and revered today. Saint Bridget lived in alignment with the highest, most exalted aspect of her being. She was born a slave, and yet legend relates that she gave away anything she possibly could to help those in need. Her generosity was an indication of the tremendous inner wealth she received from her connection to spirit. Her message to us is to reconnect to that inner fire, that eternal flame that feeds us more than anything external to us ever could. Read poetry or whatever feels like sacred scripture to your soul. Let your soul voice surface through some uncensored automatic writing, or let your soul guide your body through movement. Your answers right now are in releasing any attachment to personal possessions, clearing space, uncluttering your home, giving away what you don't need, or someone needs it more than you do, so that you have the sacred space to remember just how much you have when your soul is loud and even present within you. Reconnect to that inner fire, that eternal flame that feeds us more than anything external to us ever could. The external stories that I also talked about, this sound vibration, this frequency vibration, this tone, all the narratives, it's outside you. But it's very difficult not to hear it, right? It's almost like we can't even not hear it. It's constantly presented to us. The way the family talks about things, what happens around us, it's like we look at it. It's in our face all the time. What if we are immortal souls here? How would that change something for us? In what way would it be possible to have heaven on earth? This whole idea of being immortal, an immortal soul, could be heaven on earth, because it means that if I am an immortal soul, I don't have to identify with being a human, having a temporary experience, or like having a little experience here and dying. I don't have to identify with it. I don't have to become it, own it, identify with it. I can maybe have a choice not to. I could decide not to and see what happens. Again, it's something about I talk about that in these readings. It's something about autonomy and like having this, like a kind of integrity about you, of what you are, more than who you are in this world, of what you are, and something about identifying with that more than whatever the external is going to push on you. Will you have an ability to stand in firmly exuding your own energy, knowing that you could be receiving a lot of criticism because it goes against what the norm is. It goes against everything that people know. You just, it's about that you, not that you necessarily want to convince other people of, I don't want to convince you of my theory. I'm sharing it. I'm not convincing you. If this sparks an interest in you, you can go along. You can explore this idea in you. But if you don't like it, it's fine. I'm just suggesting that if you actually would resonate or you like to experiment with it, it's your choice, right? And taking that in is, it will going to, if you start working with it, it's going to change something about you. You probably will become more strange to people, I guess. That's usually what happens if you try to identify with something else or identify differently with new things. People around you may change the way they interact with you, like the way they speak to you and so. And it changes, like if you have an identity of being a scapegoat or a victim, you will have people come into your life that is going to prove this to you. If you want to change that much, like that existence, that identity into a victor, someone who succeeds, it's going to change something about your aura or something. There is an autonomy or an integrity or something authentic about the way you stand there, if you truly own it. And others may not they may not like it, right? They may not like what you exude. But it's all on them. Like it has to do with something outside of yourself. But what if you could stand in your own and you know that you have infinite supply here from this specific core of yours that has nothing to do with the external. It all comes from within. Wouldn't that be something? Whatever I read about St. Bridget, I feel like what it all comes down to is this idea of like what you identify with, like what truth you believe in, becomes your world. And therefore you can create heaven on earth. You can create something. But I think it also comes to how much of this other stuff you can push out away from you and know that it's external from you. And then you decide, what am I going to have in here that allows me to maybe feel heaven on earth, that allows me to stay true to my core. Yeah, that's what I feel like. It's about whether we can hold our own frame, I want to say. Can we hold, or can we expand our frame to know more? And then while we're doing that, we're sorting. You know, we sort out what we want to keep. If you don't want to keep the story of mortality, you can throw it out then. But you know, it's going to like change your, like it's going to challenge your thinking. Because, well, it seems like it's an easy thing. I can just throw it out. Yeah, but then your body is going to, well, and how exactly are we supposed to do this then? And you cannot own the idea of being afraid of dying. If you own the idea of being afraid of a physical death, you haven't thrown it out. Like the physical avatar death is not a real death. That is what she knew. Like she knew she would just, like physicists say that energy can never die, it can only change. And that's exactly what happened, right? She had a physical manifestation, then she died. She moved on. And she believed strongly in this. That became her fuel. That is what her soul was telling her from a very, very young age. Yes, she was maybe born a slave, but she never owned it. She never identified with it. It didn't get to dictate who she was or what she was. That's the difference, I think. Okay, this is what I have for you, Aquarius. Oh, I really hope, like, for these next 18 years, like, let's just open this beautiful mind of yours and let's be brave. And even, again, I want to say, let those communities build, right? Find people that go along with some of this. So that you may not feel that you are alone, unless you want to be alone, of course. But, you know, you can play with this and see what happens inside you, how your body is reacting, how your brain is reacting. Like, what if this is true? Like, what if it is possible to, like, put aside my ego, which is very human based, like it all comes down to this survival thing. The ego is a protector. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just, it's conditioned. Yeah, this is what I have. I hope this helped, Aquarius, in some way. Let me know if it resonates. Let me know if you like it in some way, or yeah, okay. Take care of yourself, Aquarius. I send you, as always, my best love and light to you. Bye bye.